What up? What up? We are tackling a ludicrous. I'm deciding to just get better adjectives for the algorithm. Everybody's, doing an insane mock draft, a great mock draft, a wild mock draft. We are doing a ludicrous mock draft today over on Underdog
Right.
Fantasy. Of course, we have Spicy Hot drafted in the back seat for us, but we are going to get over into that immediately. Shatero, first one in here. Looks like he's hitting the thumbs up. Appreciate if you guys are watching this back. You want to go ahead and do the same. Subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. But let's not waste any time. We got Spicy Hot in the backseat drafting for us. We're gonna be tackling the Chihuahua, which is a new contest. Very, very low entry fee, $4 entry, 25 max as well, and pretty decent sized prize pool at as well with the 25K to first. So we're going to be entering this contest. If you guys want to join up and want to draft with us, of course, just go to Underdog Fantasy and hit enter as we hit enter. And if you don't have an Underdog account, you guys can see it along the bottom of the screen there. Promo code FSE for 100% match back up to $100. So, I mean, in this contest, it's a $4 entry. If you put in, I don't know what, let's do some quick math here. If you put in $100, how many entries is that?
400.
25?
Oh, $100. Yeah, 25. I thought
That's
you meant
all max 25 of
entries.
your entries right there. If you deposited $100 with the promo code FSE, you'd get an additional 100, so you can add in 4 Best Ball Mania 4s or whatever, or do a bunch of puppies or Dalmatians or something. So we will hit the enter on this Chihuahua draft. Again, go over to Underdog if you want to join up. Hit the yes, and we will be good to go.
Yep. Thing I will say is, Spicy Hawk, can you zoom in a little bit here because it's a little too far?
Also, dark mode before people roast you.
Yeah, one more zoom, I would say. And then also something we got to do better that we got some feedback on the last stream is make sure after we make our picks that we show the whole draft board because we got a couple complaints on the last stream. But aside from that, we should be all set.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Fantasy Plumber says I can't get Underdog in Ontario, and it makes me sad. Yeah, big facts.
Now, the question I do have is obviously 99% of the time you're going with Justin Jefferson, but how much exposure are you getting to Chase at this spot?
None. I think
None?
I'm just taking Jefferson most of the time.
Fair. The reason why I think it's interesting is because obviously the stacking opportunity of the Bengals and the half PPR kind of lending towards the big play. But I do agree at like 85% of the time it's going to be Jefferson. But if I get 100 101s, I'm which would be obviously be very likely or lucky. But if I got 100 101s, I'd maybe mix in 15 chases just to get some diversity.
Yeah, I think knowing that that we have a bunch of Chase at 3 and Chase at 4 teams, I probably wouldn't want to take Chase at 1 for that reason. It looks like Notorious is in here at the 4 spot as well. I just noticed. So yeah, let's go with Jettas and see what's going on the way back here. So we got a bunch of Let's Get It. My eyes. Yes, I knew the light mode was coming.
We got like half the chat in here with us apparently. Jeez. We got Chan Hughes in here. We got Notorious. Jared's in here as well. And somebody else actually mentioned too. Who was Morik is in here as well. Loin. So it's going to be fun. And as we see, this looks like a typical FSC room with 4 wide receivers off the bat. And basically that is my exact order right now. The top 5 is literally how I have it ordered.
Yeah, for sure. And Jay Full mentions the Underdogs in-season plays as well. They do have season-long prop pick'ems going right now, which I think are really interesting. And when I'm not in Ontario, I'm probably gonna enter some of those as well because I did break down some of them in the video that I did last week. That was players I'm higher on. I might do a players I'm lower on version of that video as well. So what do we got? Any questions? Again, feel free to drop them in the chat. Yeah, literally, I'm at 7. I'm here, Loin. Well. I'm here too at 3. We got the entire chat in here right now. So a lot of wide receivers going off the board from like a home league standpoint. I feel like the whole conversation is completely different because I've seen some like fantasy analysts that cover more like your typical redraft centric like home leagues. And the conversations that they're having about the early portion of the first round, the mid portion of the first round from a redraft perspective are completely different than the ADP that we see on Underdog. And I think that's really interesting, especially knowing that, Underdog is obviously where all the sharps are playing and that's where the money's at. But at the same time, it's only a half PPR format. So do you think the real answer, my opinion is that it's somewhere in between. I think Underdog is too high on wide receivers and the home league ADP is too high on running backs. But for me, it's kind of somewhere halfway in between that area, especially in full PPR.
Yeah, because of the wide receiver scarcity in a 3 wide receiver start underdog format, I understand it to a certain degree. It only gets to the point where once I'm evaluating like Chris Olave versus like a bell cow running back like Tony Pollard, at that point I kind of evaluate and say, well, in a half PPR setting, Tony Pollard's got a legitimate 20 plus or half PPR, so it'd be like 16, 17 plus half PPR point per game ceiling. With Chris Olave, it's like that would be his he's going to be a first round pick next year type of projection. So for me personally, I agree. There is kind of a middle ground here. Again, I would lean towards the wide receiver side rather than the full running back redraft side here. But ultimately, like, yeah, I can't go Jalen Waddle over Tony Pollard. I can't go, or not over Tony Pollard, Saquon Barkley. I can't go Chris Olave over Tony Pollard. I can't go insert wide receiver here, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins over a guy like Tony Pollard.
Is Bijan still on the board?
Yeah, look at the wide receiver run, by the way.
That's
Jeez.
ridiculous. Yeah, he needs to be picked ASAP, Chan. Yeah, you're throwing. I need Bijan to be off the board here because it's actually making me angry that we didn't pick later in this draft. If Bijan's going to fall to the mid-second round, there you go.
Pokey hokey with a really strong start there with Kelsey and Bijan in terms of positional advantage. Should be interesting, man, because we're starting to see the running backs go off the board a little bit now, but I mean, overall, it's been pretty fun.
Yeah. So Bob, it feels like everybody really enjoyed us going back and forth on Trey Lance and Brock Purdy the other day. What are some things that we disagree on? I would say, like, generally speaking, I'm a little higher on running backs than Danny is. So when we do these drafts, like, I'm going to probably be a little higher on some of the running backs, like especially Saquon and JT and the guys that are going off the board. Like, I'm willing to take Bijan and McCaffrey inside the top 4 or 5 overall picks versus I think you're favoring, Tyreek and those type of dudes at that point. I'm trying to think, like, is there a player take specifically that we completely disagree on for the most part?
I can't think of one off the head. Like, obviously, like, once we look through the board, we'll see some things that we can pretty much point out. By the way, there's a couple of really nice names that are potentially falling here, but no like name that like specifically speaks out to me on that. But I mean, we will see some examples once we go through the board.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up my week 17 stuff here just so I have it.
Fresh heard me talking about Tony Pollard for like the last round and just get sniped right under our teeth like that. That's pain. I mean, one of the quarterbacks surely has to be the pick here, right?
Yeah, I don't mind going. I personally have Allen higher than Hurts, so I would go
too.
Allen as well.
Now, would you hear me out? Would you mix in a Breece Hall here, or do you think that's a little too early?
I'm kind of just whoever. Yeah. I think. Breece is interesting. So, on Friday's video, we're gonna have Edwin on the channel, and he is very much a proponent of Breece Hall being a great value because of the peripherals of his ACL tear. It was a very clean, tear. He has more than 9 months to recover. He's already looking good according to the staff and that kind of thing. I'm cool with going Breece Hall. Those would be my 2 best options, I think. The ones that he just starred with Mark Andrews and Breece Hall. I think I'm cool just going Breece Hall here.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the way I kind of view it is I'm going to be higher now on Breece Hall now that I'm getting some more confirmation from the doctors around me. Because quite simply, if this guy played a full season in his rookie season, this guy would be a first-round pick. This guy would be exactly where Austin Eckler's going, probably in between where Eckler and Bijan. I could even make an argument that if he finished as strong as he started, he'd be going above Bijan and McCaffrey. So if you're getting that type of upside here at the 2-3 turn, like, yeah, there's some risk that you're obviously absorbing, but the volatility here is that if we hear completely good reports from here on out, this is a guy that I think by the end of the summer might be an early second-round pick.
Yeah, no, Breece was on pace to tear the NFL apart. I heard Karain talk about, he's like in the legendary upside article that we always talk about, where he breaks down the case for these running backs to have massive ceiling performances. And actually Breece Hall, he said, is like one of the better options in terms of like how he stacks up relative to that legendary ceiling. The only difficult part is he is coming off of an ACL tear, right? So we are concerned to some degree. Am I like all the way in on Breece Hall? Not really, but if he's available in the 3rd round, I definitely will have some exposure to him.
Yeah, because
I do think, the time, like, as the season gets closer, I will imagine that he will work his way into the 2nd round, assuming he's on the field for all the like major checkpoints. If he's on the field for training camp, if he's on the field playing in preseason games, that kind of thing, he's not going to be a 3rd round pick for long if that stuff happens. And it sounds like Robert Saleh's comments the other day have kind of reassured us that he probably will be back. But I don't know. I have PTSD of investing in ACL tear running backs, man. Like it's really really going to be a challenging thing with Breece because he's got every peripheral you could want. Clean ACL tear, very young, elite athleticism, high draft capital,
Super
offensive,
efficient.
offensive insulation with Aaron Rodgers coming in. He's going to really test the process of like, do we ever invest in a running back first year off the ACL tear?
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting because obviously, assuming he's fully healthy, like the projection is completely there for him to enter the upper echelon of fantasy running backs. Because I mean, even if you included obviously that Denver game, four carries, 72 yards and a touchdown before tearing his ACL, but even if you excluded those 4 touches out of the sample size, so in the first 6 games of his career, we're looking at a guy who had 107 opportunities despite splitting the backfield, quote unquote, with Michael Carter in the first couple of weeks. There is a legitimate 20 to 23 overall opportunity per game upside here, not to mention with one of the best athletes at the position in the entire NFL. So for me personally, like everything that we want to talk about in terms of what Saquon Barkley brings onto the football field, imagine that, but with a guy who's 4 years younger and in a better insulated offense.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon is also the example that Edwin I know uses to describe Breece Hall's recovery and that kind of thing. Because before that, the high ankle sprain or whatever the low ankle sprain that he suffered in his season first year off of the ACL tear against the Cowboys, we remember his like foot got stepped on. He was ramping himself up to have a bounce back season, and that kind of derailed it a little bit. So unfortunately, we never got to see what Saquon Barkley would have done 1 year off the ACL tear because he suffered that ankle injury. But nonetheless, we know he was, relatively inefficient for the rest of that season after starting to kind of ramp himself up. So it definitely still makes me concerned for Breece Hall. I will say I'm not like super all the way in on him. What about the guys that have gone in this round here? Is there anybody that kind of sticks out to you as somebody that you're going to have a lot of or that's going too low?
I mean, looking at the beginning of the 4th round, sorry, you were lagging a little bit there, or maybe I was, but I heard you. In terms of the 4th round, the guy that I'm going to be super in on, he just went off the board. Jared absolutely sniped us. I'm going to be all in on Jerry Jeudy. This was a guy that showed out down the stretch.
Oh,
Once
buddy,
the offense,
you are lagging nuts right now for me. I don't know if let
you're
me know if
lagging
it's
nuts
just
for me.
okay. Which one of us is lagging, fellas?
Comment down below in the stream chat because I can't tell right now. I mean, Spicy can let us know too in the private. Neither.
He says neither. Okay, so for some reason you're
Really?
lagging for me, Danny.
And you're lagging for me.
LOL. Okay.
What the heck? Okay, we should be good now. So if everybody could hear us, that's fine. But Jerry Jeudy's going to be the guy I'm going to be extremely in on in terms of price tag. I mean, we saw the talent down the stretch last year when the team wasn't a complete dumpster fire. This is a guy that was giving you legitimate wide receiver 2 upside. Now you plug in Sean Payton, new system in town there. Like I'm extremely excited for what we could potentially see. With that being said, here, I think I'll see. If Pollard had fell to us, I'd be so comfortable just smashing Fields and DJ Moore here. But I don't know where I want to lean. Where are you thinking here? I think DJ
Gotta
Moore
take
for
somebody.
sure.
Probably DJ is my
DJ
guess.
for sure, yeah. And then if we're looking down, I don't mind Aaron Jones at this price. It's pretty reasonable. I don't mind Joe Mixon either. Oh no, I'll let you make the choice on this one. I picked DJ.
I personally like Ayuk and Godwin the most here.
All right, yeah, I'm down for it. That works for me.
Ayuk could probably be my pick. Yeah.
Bet.
I do really like Walker as well. But it's a tad early on him because he does fall quite a bit in a lot of these drafts. But Ayuk could be my pick there.
Sounds good. I am so confused right now why we're lagging on each other's ends, but nobody else can hear it.
I'm gonna refresh my thing right now, so you'll be solo for a half second here.
Yep, sounds good. I'll do solo for a half second, and then we'll just swap. Yeah, that is weird. So I'll get through some comments. Obviously, we just made both our picks. Breece over Ramondre. Yeah, Ramondre is a good bet too, but I just think that he doesn't have the opportunity to rise in terms of ADP, whereas Breece with a good summer could be going in the early second. So I think if you're drafting right now, you have to take the leverage that Breece could potentially work his way into being a high second round pick. But if you want to take Ramondre at the 2-3 turn, I do think it's reasonable as well.
All right, you're still lagging for me, so if you want to refresh yours as well, I'll take over for a half second. All right, so I mean, looking at the board, you can see the wide receiver run just kind of ripping off the board. I'm quite interested in some of the running backs that go in this area of the draft. Like I see ETN here, I see Jacobs going off the board there. I think there's definitely some value to be had in the dead zone this year, more than others for the most part.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. By the way, I think you sound pretty fine now.
Yeah, it started for me on your end, so I was assuming it was something to do with you. I'm really shocked that nobody else could hear it.
Yeah, no, I
It
agree.
was like absolutely awful for both of us.
Oh, dude, well, because you were talking after we made the Breece Hall pick, and I'm thinking, man, I'm like, I can't hear a word. I'm praying that the audience can.
Yeah. Andrew says, I'm managing a new league with friends this year and want different settings for my home league. What are your home league settings? So for my home league, for redraft, it's a standard one quarterback league, two running back, three wide receiver, two flex, with a tight end spot. It was a half PPR, but we're going to full, I think, this year.
Yep.
And there's nothing really crazy that we do. Like there's no wild shit. That's basically what all we do is just two running back, three wide receiver, two flex, and then tight end, quarterback, and full PPR. We do actually have 2-point bonuses for big plays, though. That's the only other thing that's a little different.
Yeah, and the difference for our league, in terms of my main home league that I've been doing with my high school buddies since 2015, is there instead of three wide receivers, two flexes, we actually have two wide receivers and three flexes because trying to convince them to go to full PPR was a tough thing in itself, but because everybody in that league just loves running backs, so I push for some three wide receiver looks, but everybody's like, nah, like we want the third flex instead, which it's valid. Add some fun to it because I mean you can score points in different ways.
Yeah, for sure. Bobcat mentions, so we did this video last year, where we talked about different fantasy apps, who was like a good value on each platform, because especially in like home leagues, people tend to just like blindly follow ADP. So whatever platform you're using will definitely kind of, influence how the draft goes. We'll probably do that closer to like August and stuff, because I mean, if you're doing mock drafts on redraft ADP apps like Yahoo or NFL or whatever, right now, I mean, like, I'm not sure how beneficial that will be because the ADP is going to change a ton, but definitely as we get closer to like when home league drafts are happening, we will 100% do some videos on, players that are undervalued on Sleeper, undervalued on Yahoo or whatever, like we did last year.
Yep. No, that was a fun video to make, so I'm definitely down to do that again. By the way, Spicy, real quick, can you check the wide receiver board? I just kind of want to see what we're looking at here. So Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Deontay. Scroll down a little bit. I just kind of want to see what the ADPs are going to be at the 8-9 area. So I mean, you still got a guy like Quentin Johnston there. Where's Gabe Davis is up there too, which could be interesting because we obviously have Josh Allen. What pick are we on right now? Are we going to have to take Gabe Davis on this turn if he falls?
I refuse to take Gabe Davis over like Mike Evans and JSN. I'm just not doing
Even
it.
with the Allen stack?
Don't care.
Fair.
To me, that's stacking to a fault rather than stacking naturally.
The only concern I might have is like, is there like a cheap option that we could potentially get to backdoor with? Like, obviously we can take a running back as well. Maybe take a Damian Harris or James Cook or something like that. But like, is there a receiver on the Bills that we could potentially target?
I mean, we could take Kincaid.
That works too. What's his ADP though? I don't know if I like that. I don't like his ADP.
I don't think that's bad at all. Tight end.
125. Okay.
That's not bad.
Fair. Okay. Yeah, that's not bad.
In terms of correlation, can you go to our receiver core just real quick? I just got to remember who we have. Okay. So, I mean, if is Evans off the board, is he still there? Because DJ Moore and Mike Evans play each other in week 17. Or sorry, no, he's on fucking Chicago now. I'm baked. I was thinking Carolina. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of week 17 stuff that we can do. The Jets play the Browns, so I mean, all the major guys are off the board. Elijah Moore may be a guy that we want to target later on.
There's one
Chicago
guy
plays Atlanta, who's got pretty much. I mean, Pitts is still on the board, so we could go with Pitts.
I didn't want to say his name because I am a little bit nervous with Notorious and Fresh picking before us. But if Kyle Pitts falls back like that I'm all in. I'm all in on that price.
49ers play the Commandos too, so we could go with Dotson and stack up Ayuk and Dotson together.
Yeah, no, I'm down. God damn it, Notorious, man. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna have a stupid amount of Kyle Pitts this year. At a 6-7 turn price tag, like you're still getting the same in terms of like what he actually represents from a peripheral standpoint. Only the offense might actually throw the ball more than 23 times a game this year. We're on the clock though. There's not really much at the running back position we can spike in here.
I don't mind Akers at this point. I think I would probably go Dotson.
Yeah, I would go Dotson and Evans, I would probably say, or QJ. I actually don't mind the QJ because we kind of are solidified in terms of our wide receiver floor. So maybe getting a ceiling option, Keenan Allen or
Dotson
something.
Dotson has to be the pick here, and there's zero chance I take any of those receivers below Mike Evans over him.
You wouldn't take QJ on this team?
Not a fucking chance.
Really?
Over Mike Evans. Not a chance.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't care about the correlation. Mike Evans should not be on the fucking board.
In terms of late season upside, like
I don't care, dude. Mike Evans is a touchdown scorer. He's a guy that creates big plays. He's perfect for this format. And
fair, but I'm just worried about your pass volume.
Last year, and we were still getting big plays and spike weeks out of Mike Evans.
Yeah, but I guess from an ADP standpoint, I'm fine with it because you're getting the better texture. But for me personally, the way I'm looking at it is the way our wide receiver room is built with 4 already like solidified guys. I do like the upside of Quentin Johnson. Again, if Mike Williams missed any time, Keenan Allen missed any time, you're getting insulation as a top 2 weapon.
You're hoping he turns into Mike Evans.
But you're getting insulation on a team that might throw the ball 700 times. We're
still going to throw a lot.
Maybe 550, 600, but you guys were quite literally one of the highest passing teams in terms of NFL history last year. You guys averaged like 46
I'm not taking a rookie receiver over Mike Evans.
Okay. It's not about the raw point production. It's about the late season push. That's what I'm viewing it as.
Mike Evans literally scored the most points of any player in Week 17 last year.
Yeah, with Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield, as much
Baker
as
Mayfield
is not Tom Brady.
If he plays like Tom Brady played like last year, it'll be the same exact offense.
If we want to bank on this offense throwing the ball over 700 times again, when we know that the Chargers probably will, I would rather do that.
Yeah, except he's got to beat out Keenan Allen and Mike Williams for targets.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm saying from a floor standpoint, Mike Evans is the guy, but I do think from a ceiling perspective, like if Keenan or Mike Williams, who missed multiple tweaks last year, miss any time, like Josh Palmer had games where he had 9, 10, 11, 12 targets. Like if you give QJ 9, 10, 11, 12 targets in a game, he might literally win you a week.
I guess
that's how I view it.
So to answer Bobcat's question, me and Danny have disagreed on QJ for a while. So that's one of the things that we've disagreed on. I still don't think just because he's on the Chargers, it makes him any better of a prospect than I thought he was.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense.
He's a great dynasty asset to invest in, but I wouldn't be shocked if he has a Treylon Burks level rookie season. I'm not talking, and Treylon Burks level rookie season does not belong to get drafted over a guy who's gone 1,000 yards 9 times in his 9-year career.
No, like up to like the 80th percentile projection, like I would agree Mike Evans, but I do think if we're looking for pure ceiling with the wide receiver core we have, like the Chargers are going to throw the ball 700 times. That's what I keep coming back to. Yeah, if the Chargers are throwing 700 times, even if Quentin Johnson isn't fully developed, he's still in pace for probably 100, 110 targets if they throw that much. And that's being modest.
I don't disagree with you, dude. I just think you're chasing a ceiling that potentially is a 1 in a million hit, right?
I don't think it's a 1 in a million.
No, I don't. I think he could hit. I just don't think he'll be better than Mike Evans.
Late season, I think he could be very easily. I'm worried about your guys' offense.
I'm worried about our offense too. It doesn't mean I don't think Mike Evans is undervalued.
Oh, no, I like Mike Evans here. I'm just saying from a pure ceiling projection, given the status of our team, I don't mind injecting that week 9 on who can win you a week, who can win you a league type of upside that Quentin Johnson represents. But maybe if you don't see Quentin Johnson with that type of upside, that's probably where the disconnect is.
I just think that you're using the term upside way too liberally. I think it's... You're just using it to sugarcoat the argument.
I mean, why isn't there upside if the team's going to throw the ball? Like the team threw the ball.
I know the team is going to throw the ball a lot. You don't have to explain that to me. I just mean Quentin Johnston's upside is becoming what Mike Evans has done for 9 straight seasons.
Yeah, sure, but I don't think that Mike Evans can win you a league. That's kind of where I'm at with him at this point. Given the state of your offense.
He's my 5th receiver. All he needs to do is give me 7 spike weeks, which he's going to do regardless of who's playing quarterback.
I don't know. Again, baseline projection, redraft projection, I don't mind taking Mike Evans. And in fact, the ADP would point to that. But I just think given the context of the team, I don't mind the upside of QJ.
Yeah, you're just using upside to sugarcoat the argument.
It's not sugarcoating the argument. Week 9 on, this guy might legitimately average fucking 18 half PPR points per game because the team's going to throw the ball 700 times this year.
I will take that bet any day of the week. I'd be stunned if he was that productive.
I'm not making a bet. I'm saying when we're dealing with hypotheticals right now as a whole, he has that in his range of outcomes, whereas I don't view that with Mike.
Yeah, I mean,
just based on pure volume, based on pure offensive strength. Like, would you really be shocked if Quentin Johnson had a 100-yard, 3-touchdown game in Week 15?
No, but we're talking about a guy who's literally a future Hall of Famer, like that. We're taking a rookie
again,
who's
like
unproven over him. Like,
baseline projection, yes, I agree. I just think given
okay,
the context
we're just going in circles now. Let's just stop talking about this. Tyler says, I can feel Bush is dying at these RB suggestions, Dynasty Brain. Yeah. So we're going to probably have to take some running backs with our next pick. If you want to show the running back board here, Spicy, I'd be definitely curious here.
I don't mind mixing Javonte on this team and James Cook.
Yeah.
Or Dame if you want to wait. Javonte
just went. I was hoping Pacheco would have slid to us. That would have been much better.
Notorious is just killing us right now, man.
Yeah, so just go to the running back position only here for a second. I just want to see what we're dealing with. I mean, we have Allen. We can correlate it with Cook, I suppose, but I'm not excited about that.
You could.
I love B-Rob, but it'll probably be our next pick maybe. But I guess there's like 7 people in this stream that are in this draft.
This is gonna sound disgusting. Is this a Kamara team?
No, I'm not drafting him. Not doing it.
Even at the 901?
Don't care.
I mean, if we're talking upside, this guy can win you weeks down the stretch.
I don't care. I'd rather have Charbonnet.
I don't know. I think this is a Kamara team personally, but that's fine.
We'll go Cook. I'll let you take Kamara.
All right.
I think he's gonna catch a 6-game suspension at least. And
but I'm already
in a three-way timeshare and a middling offense. Like,
no, I get that.
I would much rather have Zach Charbonnet, AJ Dillon, or Brian Robinson, 100%.
However, I will say I understand. Like again, I will prefer Kamara.
For what it's worth,
but
B-Rob would correlate us with Ayuk in Week 17 as well. I think I would go B-Rob here. That would be my pick.
I can't get on board. I would rather just.
All right, I'll let you. We'll go Kamara.
Well, the thing I view it here is because like the way I view B-Rob and Gibson, they're so close for me to the point where I would just rather see which one falls for the next pick.
Perfect. This is ludicrous. That's big facts. I love it when you guys disagree. Needed to happen more. Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing: we don't actually disagree a ton because we use the same resources for research and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
So we generally have like similar takes, but Lance versus Purdy part 2. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was lower on QJ's projection. I think I always said, to me, the QJ like has an elite wide receiver 1 ceiling. Was the same as when people said it about George Pickens. It was like his ceiling was more like Michael Gallup, like you always talked about with George Pickens. I think Quentin Johnston's ceiling is more like that too. I don't think he has an elite wide receiver 1 ceiling.
See, I think his yards after catch in that system is going to be what's really fascinating. Because again,
it's going to be fascinating, but I still expect Keenan Allen to probably have 165 targets this year. As long as
he stays healthy, he's also
as long as he's healthy, and then if he's not healthy, I still think Mike Williams will command a ton of work as well. Quentin Johnston, to me, from a redraft perspective, I'm honestly not all that interested in him.
I mean, the way I look at it though is those guys missed multiple games this past year. Keenan Allen, if anybody, any wide receiver in the NFL is probably the best bet to at least miss a couple games.
Michael Thomas would be the answer to that.
Okay, yeah. Aside from him, so the way I'm looking at it is, if you knew that you could potentially get 8 games of QJ being the wide receiver 2 combined there in LA, where do you think his ADP would go? Given the fact that the team's going to throw it as much as they can, and they have fucking Justin Herbert. I think he'd be a 5th
8 games.
Yeah, Keenan Allen / Mike Williams, a combo. Basically, one of those wide receivers were out for a combined 8 games.
I think Austin Eckler would have 130 targets, just like what happened last year.
But QJ would probably be going in round 4 from an ADP texture standpoint. If that happened,
I would never draft him that high. But sure, he probably would be.
But that's what I mean, right? Like he would probably go there.
When has wide receiver ever been about opportunity? Like it's always been talent, always.
Oh, and I'm still banking on the 1st round pick that they just selected as being a talented player.
He's a 1st round pick. I think he was an overrated prospect.
Fair. I was higher on him. Which is why
this is the disconnect here. So I mean, Jay Full's saying we need to find out the more athletic GP though and better draft capital. I mean, they're pretty similar athletically, I think.
A QJ better after the catch. GP obviously a human highlight reel in terms of contested catches. So I would say their archetype is a little bit different. GP being more of that Michael Gallup type, and QJ insert Brandon Ayuk. Like,
yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk's developed into a
Brandon
much
Ayuk
better
coming
route.
out.
My comp for him was Brandon Ayuk, but Brandon Ayuk developed into an elite route runner.
That's the thing. Like, obviously, I'm talking raw Brandon Ayuk when he came out, rookie year Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah, he was still better coming out of school.
Fair.
Must have accidentally rewinded back. Okay, so I gotta be honest, I hate this fucking team. I think our running
Really?
back core is really bad.
It,
Because
it,
I don't like
it's
James Cook and Alvin Kamara at all. But
fair.
we'll see how it goes. We still have to probably grab another QB at some point.
Kirk
Because
Cousins.
with Allen, I don't like building out 3 quarterback builds. I don't know
Kirk.
about you, but I don't want to build out a 3 QB build with Josh Allen.
The
So
answer
we
is Kirk
probably
Cousins.
want to bookend it with at least one more solid quarterback.
Kirk Cousins.
Right. I guess we have Jefferson,
Yeah.
so that makes sense. And then we don't have a tight end, I don't think, right? We don't have a tight end at all. So we're
Do
gonna
we
need to
not?
build out a 3 tight
Oh,
end build for sure.
right. We were gonna take Kyle Pitts, but fucking Notorious sniped our asses. Right.
Cousins might be gone by the time our pick comes up.
Let's hope not.
Yeah,
Let's hope
I
not.
really like the running backs on the board too, though. So if any one of those 3 guys falls, I'm 100% taking them.
How and this is gonna be weird, but like, what are your thoughts if Damien Harris fell? Because obviously you're banking on James Cook paying off in the receiving game, Damien Harris paying off in terms of rushing. So, like, do you think like that type of quote unquote handcuff would actually work out in a tournament like this?
I mean, if the 2 of them combined for 14 RB2 weeks or better, and Cook gave you 7 and Harris gave you 7, then it's fine. I don't think it would really matter to me. It's a good enough offense. Do I want to draft 2 running backs from the same team often? Probably not. But the texture too also exists where, let's say Damian Harris is the lead back early in the season, gets injured, and all the Damian Harris teams are dead, and you have James Cook, and he's the league winner. So I think it would be pretty interesting. So there goes both of them, Damian Harris and Kirk Cousins. So that's unfortunate. Do we have anybody that we can stack up with Geno or Daniel Jones?
Well, real quick, scroll up, Spicy. Jared, do you even have Jordan Addison go up a little bit more? 6th round, 5th round area?
He does.
Okay, you have Addison. Okay, fair enough. I thought you just took a naked Kirk Cousins just because we said we wanted him.
Yeah. So I want to see if we can get maybe. That's not going to work. Can you go back to the quarterback board? I just want to see who's still available at QB. Geno just went.
Danny Dimes is the name.
Danny Dimes is still available. And
is Waller available?
I'm trying to look at where he plays in week 17, so I know who can maybe correlate to him.
I mean,
they play the Rams.
Oh, we could also go Aaron Rodgers because we have Breece, and we could backdoor like insert whatever.
Alan Lazard, who might be on the board still. I'm not sure. McCole Hardman.
Yeah. Oh, I like McCole. I actually like that.
Yeah, I like taking Rodgers here as our second quarterback.
I agree there. I would have taken
B-Rob on the board still.
B-Rob, he just went. So did Gibson. So that kind of sucked.
I like Penny here. I also like Kincaid too because we have Allen. We should take Kincaid.
I'm down. I don't know. You said you don't like this team, but I do like it.
I like that turn pick. Those were nice. I just didn't like the James Cook Kamara side. But I mean, sometimes you gotta take players that you're not you don't like because you want to diversify a little bit and build out a thing. But like there is going to be certain players I just don't draft, and Alvin Kamara will be one of them.
The way I kind of view Alvin Kamara is that I feel like the 9th round ADP is already baking in that he's going to miss time. He's going to miss 6 weeks because realistically, if he was, hypothetically available to play week 1, like this guy would still be probably a 3rd round pick. Like he would still be probably a 3rd or 4th round pick. So the way I kind of look at it is you're getting a lot of value there, at least 5 rounds of value, and he's still got potential opportunity to be the second leading target on that offense, assuming MT's injury issues are still volatile. Rashid Shaheed, as much as I like him, doesn't develop into a true number 2. And Chris Olave, while I like him, he doesn't have a Justin Jefferson 180 plus target type of projection. So I do think there's opportunity in the passing game with Derek Carr coming in, where if Alvin Kamara were to play week 7 on, he could potentially go back to being the satellite Alvin Kamara rather than the between the tackles, ground and pound Alvin Kamara, given the running back moves they made in that backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I worry that they're never going to use him that way again, though, because Sean Payton is no longer there, who was the person that used him that way. And Dennis Allen seems content with just running him up the middle fucking 20 times a game and never giving him goal line work because that's what Taysom Hill does. By the way, I think Taysom Hill might legitimately be the best value in all of best ball.
I'm down to take him.
I actually think he's probably a lock for at least 5 spike weeks. and you don't have to pay anything for him. He's always like my third tight end anytime I build 3 tight end builds. Chan said, what's your thought process on your QB2 when you get an elite guy early? So, I mean, we literally just did that. My thought process is if I get an elite guy, and by elite, I mean like Hurts, Mahomes, like one of the top 5 or 6 guys, I like getting a good quarterback too, like a top 15 option, because then I only have to build out 2 quarterback builds. But if I don't get an elite quarterback, let's say my first quarterback is Prescott or something like that, I typically always go with 3 QBs then. So for me, knowing that the spike weeks that those guys can generate, Allen, Mahomes, Hurts, and stuff, are going to make up the majority of your spike weeks, I tend to only go with a 2 quarterback build, but I still like to get a good, stable quarterback too. I don't want to go like Josh Allen and then, you know, Derek Carr or something like that. Like I need
Jimmy Garoppolo
a quarterback too, to make sure that I'm not building out a 3 QB.
No, I feel you on that. By the way, who was the Bills receiver that they signed this offseason? Who's going to play third wide receiver? Hardy, right? That's who it was. Let me see. What's their depth chart kind of looking at? So if we missed out on Hardy, what do we?
Shakir.
Brent Sherfield, I know, has been getting talked up. Khalil Shakir, Justin Shorter.
I think I like Hardy the most of those guys.
Probably.
Just because too, he also has special teams appeal, so it's possible he returns some kicks for touchdowns and just gives you some like weird spike weeks that way, or punts or whatever. So I don't mind him. Plus, he's gonna, between him and Shakir, somebody's gonna end up winning out McKenzie's job, I would assume. I think Shakir has probably more upside than Hardy because he's like a young player and he's still kind of ascending, but Hardy fits like what they had with McKenzie, which was like a shifty slot receiver who, anytime fucking Deontay Hardy played against the Bucs, he literally would return like a 70-yard punt against us every single time because he was like a little jitterbug or whatever. So
I remember that was the thing that kept going on that we were mentioning. By the way, for the record, Jets do play the Browns, so we could look at maybe some tertiary options soon enough. But regardless, I remember you kept mentioning every time the Bucs would just allow a kick, you're like, dude, this is the worst special teams I've ever seen. And
the Bucs have the worst kickoff coverage I've ever seen in my life. Like for my entire time being a Bucs fan, I have never once been impressed by their special teams kickoff coverage. Like it's guaranteed 10 yards over expected to whoever the kick returner is.
Yeah, no, it
That's
is pretty.
2 really good values there. The last 2 picks, Bigsby and Nico Collins going that late is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm going to get a decent amount of him at that point, at that price tag.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a huge Jonathan Mingo guy, but we do have Mike Evans and they play each other in week 17. That would be kind of interesting.
This is going to sound gross, but we have 5 wide receivers. We probably can't do it. I was going to say, how gross would it be if we just took Thielen and Mingo and bet on Thielen being the early season guy and Mingo breaking out down the stretch? But I do think that if we do that, we'd be too far behind the 8 ball at either at either running back or tight end.
Yeah, can you go to running back real quick, Spicy? I think Mingo will definitely be one of these picks. I really like Roschon here too. I think he's a pretty good value. I think I would go with those 2 guys. I would go with Roschon and Mingo personally.
I don't mind that. I'm good with it.
Yeah, I love Algier at that price tag. Like I get it. He's like Bijan is 100% going to be like a workhorse back, but Algier, they run the ball enough that Algier could definitely have some spike week, just like touchdown performances. And I think he's like one of the better handcuffs in all of fantasy too, because like I said, we know how much that team runs the ball. If Bijan were to miss 5 or 6 games, Algier could definitely be an RB2, high-end RB2 type of option for however much time he's out for as well. So we are definitely 100% going to have to take 2 more tight ends, and probably with like our next 2 picks, because I don't want to get too deep into the tight end streets. I want to get some guys that are functional potentially. We have loaded up on the Bears offense. We could take Komet with our next pick, but
I mean, like if you're banking on the, by the way, I love that Kyler pick at the 13-6. I think that's a really good value there. If you're betting on the Bears potentially throwing the ball more, like Komet, as much as I think he's a limited upside player, if he's falling to the 14th round, at that point, it's kind of like, you're kind of going to get a tight end 6 to 11 type of finish from him. Yeah, but I mean, in that offense, if Justin Fields does take the step, you could be looking at 5 to 8 receiving touchdowns. And at that point, at the tight end position, if you're getting that in the 14th round, that's just usable weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently, Saquon has now fallen to like almost the 3rd round in underdog drafts in ADP, which is fucking ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Flood asks, what's the squad looking like? If you want to go to our team real quick. Spicy. So yeah, we got our QBs are done. I would say we don't need to draft another one. We have
Agreed.
Allen and Rodgers there. Breece, James Cook, Kamara, and Roshan. This is probably we have to draft 6 running
At
backs.
least
I think with this
5
team.
or 6. Yeah.
I think we need 6 personally because we have 5 really, really high end wide receivers. So we don't probably need more.
We do need
7
3 tight
wideouts.
ends too.
Yeah, well, yeah, the 2-7-6-3 or sorry, 2-6-7-3 would be the build that I would go with this team.
I don't mind that.
Does the math add up there?
I mean, 8, 15, 18, yeah.
Yeah, that's 2-6-7-3 has actually been the build I've been building most commonly, I would say, because I've been drafting 2 top 15 quarterbacks very consistently, whether it's like Prescott and Watson or like an elite quarterback and then Cousins or something like that. And then I've also been building out a lot of hero RBs and double hero RBs or whatever. So I tend to draft 6 running backs because I'll draft like 1 or 2 running backs early and then I won't touch running back until like round 13 or something like that. And I'll just, load up late on running back upside. And then I build up my wide receiver core as like 5 really strong options type of situation. And then I'll build a 3 tight end. The only time I'm not building 3 tight end cores pretty much, has been when I draft Kelsey and Goddard, or like 2 like very strong options because they work into your flexes as well. So I'm not getting too crazy about like if I have Kelsey, I shouldn't draft another tight end late. And ironically, I saw Sam Sherman from Ship Chasing. He put out like a graph, or no, sorry, it wasn't Sam Sherman. It was Josh something from the Undroppables put out a graph of the highest win rate over expected builds, like roster construction, and 4 of the top 5 had more than 3 tight ends, which I think to me is pretty crazy.
You mean 3 or more, right?
Huh?
3 or more tight ends.
3 or more tight ends. The third highest had 4 tight ends. But
wow.
I think it's pretty crazy to me that it's not universally understood that you should be drafting 3 tight ends unless you get 2 top 12 guys, in my opinion.
Damn it. Fun.
So
that's not fun.
That sucks. For me, I've been drafting a ton of like Pat Fryermuth, Tyler Higbee, Hayden Hurst builds, like those kind of later round tight ends, but grabbing 3 of them. I'll be getting, Evan Ingram, Cole Kmet, Irv Smith or something like that. I like those type of builds at tight end a lot more than drafting like Kelsey and one other, tight end late or something like that.
Agreed. By the way, so I think
we're up on the clock here. We should probably make a pick.
Okay, yeah, but
I like Gainwell the most out of the running backs, and we definitely need some running back talent. I also love Chase Brown at this point in time.
I don't mind Jeff Wilson or Chase Brown out of the running backs either. Or Gus. I'll let you choose the running back because I do have one wide receiver I kind of want to pound the table for here.
You
know who it's going to be.
Give me Chase Brown, honestly. Okay, I know he's like a little lower in ADP, but I don't want to risk it.
The wide receiver, I love Rashid Shaheed at this spot. It would be either Shaheed or Curtis Samuel. I'd be down for either of them, but I do like, because we have Kamara, we kind of get some correlation there with Shaheed. I guess we have Dotson as well. I
personally don't think we should take a receiver here. I think we can wait on receiver.
I mean, like, what tight ends are really jumping out at you here?
You're right. Yeah, we'll go with Shaheed. We can take tight ends later. I still like Hurst, and I still like
Mayer Ferguson, later, fucking Schoonmaker.
So how many? We have 5 running backs, correct, on this team?
I believe so. Yeah, we should. Yeah. So we would need 1 more running back, 2 more tight ends with these last 3 picks.
Okay. Can you go to the running back position? I just want to star some guys late that I like. So star Gainwell, Jeff Wilson, and Gus Edwards, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Cordero Patterson as well. I like.
Yeah.
And McBride too, I don't mind as well. As a hand, I think McBride is the direct handcuff to Alexander Madison. I think Ty Chandler is probably going to work as like the 3rd down back, which honestly hasn't been a very fruitful role in Minnesota for a while. So I think McBride is the play that I'm going. If you're going to go cheap at running back and you're going to fade Madison, I think the play should be to take McBride late.
I also liked Malik Davis down there. I thought that was a pretty nice spot there.
Yeah, and then go to tight end as well. Yeah, you can star him. Go to tight end as well. I just want to see. So I like
Conklin. We have Rodgers.
Yeah, Conklin's not bad. I also don't mind Hurst. Hurst for sure.
I mean, Mayer's got to be
Hurst,
a pick there.
McBride, and Mayer. I like too.
Mayer at tight end 28. I'm sorry. Why is he so low? Like, I understand.
Do you really want to bet on 2 rookie tight ends is my question, because we do have Kincaid
right. We have
already.
Kincaid. That's the thing.
I think Conklin and Hurst would make some sense, because then we have like a little like, because if that week 17 Panthers and Bucks game shoots out and Hurst catches 2 touchdowns and Mingo has a big game and Mike Evans scores on the other side of that. I actually really do like that game as like a contrarian like week 17 stack, because everybody's stacking up like Chiefs, Bengals, and like the big games. I think Carolina and Tampa could be a sneaky shootout late in the season.
Yep, I feel you. Was offered JT for Elijah in a late first. As much as I love Elijah, like I think you have to take JT.
Yeah,
there if you're
JT,
competing.
that's very easily Jonathan Taylor.
Very good value there. For us deep dynasty players, what's your take on Justin Shorter and Trey Palmer? Just absolute trash. Some chance of ups.
Justin Shorter's absolute trash, but Trey Palmer is good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll be like fantasy relevant, but if you were to tell me they had some best ball type of relevance, if you were in a best ball dynasty league, I think maybe at that point, but in a managed league, I don't think either are really appealing.
I have a ton of Trey Palmer on my taxi squads.
Really?
I think he's going to eventually work himself into the third wide receiver spot in Tampa. And especially, like you said, in dynasty best ball formats, he has 4.3 speed. He's the deep threat for that team. I actually really like Trey Palmer as a stash. I don't think, I'm crazy excited about him from like a long-term standpoint, but if he has a couple spike weeks, like could he have like a Romeo Dobbs type of ascension at some point? I think he could be someone like that. And he could net you like a pick upgrade. Like if you got him in the 4th round and he has like some flashes in training camp and preseason, maybe you could swap him for a 3 or something like that. And I think that would be not too bad for Trey Palmer.
By the way, J-Full, oddly enough, it kind of more so reminds me of a James Conner situation. Because if we look at Algier, like what he was able to actually do, he looked like a starting quality running back. So I do think, I mean, I guess you could say the same thing with Madison, but Madison was never like as good of an efficient rusher that even Algier was last year.
Yeah, I think what Algier is the new AJ Dillon is what I think.
That's a good one too. That's a good one too.
Because it's a team that wants to run the ball. If Bijan gets hurt, it's very clear to me that Madison will just, or that Algier will just step into the running back carries and that kind of stuff. So for me, I think Algier, and also like I do think he's gonna have a sneaky like non-Bijan injury kind of workload. Like I wouldn't be shocked if he's still getting 10 to 12 touches a game, even with Bijan out there, because I mean, Atlanta's running the ball like at a extremely high rate to the point that like they're not going to give Bijan 26 carries a game. Like he's probably going to get 18 to 20 carries a game, maybe 22 carries a game, and a couple targets here and there. There's going to be more available for Algier, and everybody seems so like certain that Pitts and London, all these guys are going to be awful because there's no pass volume. Well, wouldn't that stand to reason that Algier is probably more valuable than people think?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because I do think that Pitts and London are probably going to be more efficiency darlings than they will be raw fantasy production this year. But at the same time, I do think the offense will run through the run game, and it'll be Bijan and Algier.
Yeah, for sure. And again, it can't be like a 23 pass attempt per game offense. Like there will be some positive regression there, but I do think like I heard someone say like, somebody on this offense has to be overvalued between Bijan, Pitts, and London. And the way I completely disagree on that, because I do think Bijan is going to get his rushing efficiency there. He's probably going to command about 250 to 300 carries on very efficient terms, probably over 5 yards per carry, given the run scheme that they have, and probably command about 12 to 15 touchdown scoring opportunities, give or take. So, I mean, if you're getting that, that's already equating to a first-round running back. Then you look at Drake London, who was a near 30% target share player last year. As long as they don't throw the ball again like 23 times a game, even if this is a 28, 29 attempt per game,
which will still be bottom 5 in the NFL.
He could command upwards of 150 plus targets. And if that's the case, he is almost a sure lock to be a wide receiver 2 at that point, unless his name is Deontay Johnson. And then with Kyle Pitts, I mean, you're getting the most athletic tight end of all time that posted over a 20% target share last time he was healthy. I think this is going to be a very concentrated passing attack, because outside of those 3 guys, there's not really many weapons on that team that really scare you.
I actually really like Cordero Patterson late in best ball drafts. I think he actually could be like a Swiss Army. Like Arthur Smith is the only guy that's been able to use him successfully. Gainwell is has to be the pick to me.
Yeah,
in my opinion, this is like huge value on him.
I'm good with Gainwell. I'm also good with whatever tight end. So Hayden Hurst most likely, and then
Hurst would be my pick here. And then we'll have our pick of the young guys there, McBride or Mayer or whatever.
Also, you said you don't like this team. By the way, Brown, I just realized we kind of took a little bit early.
I don't care.
20 picks.
I think Chase Brown's ADP is way too low.
Yeah, fair. I mean, basically, you just swap picks between him and Gainwell, and you pretty much equate value there.
Yeah, exactly. In the Trey McBride is a great late round best ball sleeper. Yeah, I think so too. He could definitely carve out a pretty decent role. Are there any dynasty players you were extremely high on that no one else was that turned out to be a star? I mean,
We were
Algier,
high
we've
on
been talking
Amon-Ra.
about. Nobody was high on Algier coming out of school, and I wouldn't say he necessarily turned out to be a star, but he definitely was a lot better than people thought he was going to be.
Well, let's try to narrow it down to stars, because I would say like we were extremely high on Amon-Ra St. Brown last year,
Yeah,
and he ended up being an absolute superstar. Even, I mean, are there any quarter like Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence? I remember I was taking anytime
I
they fell
turned the
to
corner
third
on
round.
Jalen Hurts last year, even though we weren't high on him
Same.
after his first year.
It got to the point where once he started falling past like the mid-second, I was all over him at that price tag. So I agree there. Although I will say 2 years ago I was lower on him, so
I was
can't
too.
take
Yeah,
full
I wasn't
credit.
high on Jalen Hurts his first year, but I was last year.
We smash it with Drake London, T. Higgins, Devontae Smith, all guys who are going to be going in third rounds of startups, and all guys we were.
I mean,
fully in
it's
on.
not like nobody was low on those. Like nobody was like, people weren't low on those guys. Like people
Yeah.
liked them still. I'm trying to think of somebody like that. He says
Nobody
no one
liked.
else was high on them.
Well, it's tricky because I'm just looking at the first 4 rounds of ADP. Like, there's not really guys that had a big difference of opinion on.
Yeah,
In terms of the
I would
first
say Dotson's a good example.
Yeah,
No, people were not high on Jahan Dotson, and we were very high on him. So I would say he's a pretty decent example.
Ramondre.
Yeah, Ramondre is another one. I also really liked Pierce as a top running back in that class.
I mean, like this was actually before we even did content, but I remember before Mark Andrews broke out, I was extremely high on him. So I mean, if you count that was before we made contact. So there's no real reference point for it. But I did have him in my home league that year, Mark Andrews.
Yeah, I loved Andrews the year before he broke out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely been guys.
Yeah, I mean, like at cost, I liked picking up Geno at the beginning of the offseason. I remember in our underdog drafts, I was when we did the big board in, I think it was March or April last year, when we were finally, or the last time we were allowed to draft on underdog. I remember we were getting a decent bit of Geno because we didn't believe in Drew Lock, and I mean, look what he ended up doing.
I drafted a lot of Jacoby Brissett as well.
Yeah, that was another guy I had a lot of too.
Yeah, I've been informed that it's Trey Benson's season. Yes, it is Trey Benson's season. By the way, like to answer Bobcat's question, I think the players that I'm extremely high on from a dynasty perspective that no one else turned out to be a star. I think Sam Howell absolutely could be one. And I also think Brock Purdy absolutely could be one too. We're not doing it again. We're not doing it again. Don't worry. We're not going to do it again.
But I mean, is it a cop out to say Elijah Moore?
Yeah, I mean, we've been high on him for years. We were definitely. I'm gonna take the stance that if Elijah Moore's a stud this year, we weren't wrong. We were just early.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, it's getting to the point where we may as well just call this the Elijah Moore fantasy channel, because I mean, it doesn't matter where his ADP is, we will be drafting Elijah Moore.
And I will say also, Josh Downs might end up being a star as well.
Yeah.
That people are not talking about enough.
I like Downs a lot. I mean, if we're looking late, I really like David Njoku going into last year, and now like he's a guy who got up a good amount of value. In terms of projecting onto next year, honestly, it's just going to be the blueprint of which young wide receiver I want to hitch my wagon to. So for me personally, obviously it's going to come with the peripherals, but off my head, like I am fully willing to buy in on Jerry Jeudy and Brandon Ayuk right now at 5th round price tags, because I do think there's an opportunity for them to accumulate value.
Yeah. Yeah, we've also been really. I would say Ayuk is also somebody that we were really high on, that people were lower on after last year, and he turned out pretty well. I guess we go Mayer here.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that at this price tag. Also, if we didn't have such a strong quarterback core, I would say we could take Sam Howell for the correlation with Dotson, but we need to go with the tight end for sure. So
yeah, we have to go with a tight end.
I'll go with Mayer.
Justin Ross, LOL.
Also, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I also, we talked about Desmond Ridder the other day. I think him in the 18th round is a pretty sneaky pick too as your quarterback 3. Him and Howell, I think, are really solid options.
Yeah, so that is the last pick of the draft, correct? Yeah, so we have the draft completed here. What else do we got? Andrew says, what sort of videos can we be expecting soon? I mean, we're going to be kind of throwing up random stuff at this point, because we're really in like a weird period where like we feel like it's almost too late for dynasty content, too early for redraft content. So we'll definitely be experimenting with some stuff, like mixing in both types of things. I'm gonna probably put out a video of like Best Ball Mania 4 strategy for those of you guys that are
Yeah.
on Underdog. And of course, shout out to them for sponsoring this video, because we're using their platform, and it's the single best way to get practice for your home leagues. It's a ton of fun. You can win a ton of money on it as well. So definitely check it out. Promo code FSE. But we'll also be doing dynasty decisions videos. We'll also be doing, trade review type of videos. Somebody mentioned, breaking down orphan strategy. We're going to have that coming up pretty soon as well. And again, if you have suggestions, things you guys want to see, feel free to let us know. If you don't want to send it here in the chat, you can just reach out to us separately on Twitter or on Discord and tell us like something you've always been wondering about or whatever. And we'll definitely look into it. I love doing like research type of videos this time of year. So a couple things that I have on the docket for like research type of videos is I'm definitely going to do a video on, dead zone running backs. Like, is it still the dead zone? That kind of thing. I definitely want to do a video on like the sleeper picks that have hit the past couple of years, like players that were going outside the top 10 rounds, like what archetypes of players were they, and like how we can use that going forward. That might be later in the summer that I talk about that. And then obviously like the what makes a league winning quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end video series that I've done every year. For the last couple of years, I'm definitely going to do that again, probably starting in like early July as well.
Yep. No, I'm down with that.
And then Danny's obviously doing his contextualized game logs from last year. And if you guys don't know what we mean by that, basically what Danny, you can actually explain it, what you looked at.
Oh, well, so basically what I will be doing in the series and what I did last year is we go through every one of the top fantasy selections in terms of just exactly what their 2022 season actually looked like. So obviously if you check the box scores, if you check, their points per game, like you're going to have points where a guy played 25% of the snaps, or a guy or a teammate was out, for example. Basically what I'm doing is I'm looking for any patterns that I can spot from their 2022 seasons, kind of what we can take away, and ultimately giving what their context or their contextualized game logs, what their game logs would look like if we fully broke down the context around their season. So, for example, a guy like Jalen Waddle last year, once I broke him down, I really, really fell in love with him and was a guy that I was selecting a ton of once I looked at the contextualized game log. So for him, even I'm trying to think like what guys kind of like broke out last year that really paid off.
Ayuk could be a perfect example.
Brandon
Once Ayuk was back on the field, not in the doghouse anymore, he was very good down the stretch last year. So yeah, basically what Danny looked at was last year, and he's doing it this year, is if there's teammates out, if the quarterback's injured, if the player was limited in any certain games, what was the truth of their season when they were on the field, with the things that we're projecting going into this year, with like the quarterback that they have, them not missing any games, that kind of thing. How good truly were they? Because somebody's season, like T. Higgins, for example, says he was like a back end wide receiver too. But he missed a bunch of games. He was on the field for like 0% of the snaps in a couple games. One of the games got canceled, obviously, with the DeMar Hamlin situation. So taking out those games, T. Higgins was a wide receiver 1 in points per game.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll give you guys a sneak peek. A prime guy that I'll be going into this year would be a guy like Tony Pollard, because we saw once he fully took over that running back 1 role from Ezekiel Elliott, obviously Ezekiel Elliott not currently on the Cowboys team, we saw a completely different season. So if you mapped out his entire season, yes, he was like the RB8 in terms of fantasy points per game. But once you contextualized week 7 on, once Dak came back, once Tony Pollard worked in as the true running back 1, this was a legitimate league winning type of running back. So context like that you can spot out, any changing circumstances that we can take away, is ultimately what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, exactly. That should help us be more educated on like what these players actually were like last year, because I think I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but when you have a player on your team, you kind of know the story of their season. But if you didn't roster them in any leagues, you kind of didn't know the story of their season. And It feels like, players who had Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara last year are not willing to draft Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. But the people who didn't have Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara look at the final season output or whatever, and they're like, oh, I want to like draft those guys this year because they were still, the RB7 in points per game in Joe Mixon's case. But it's like, outside of that big game, like you didn't want to have Joe Mixon on your team last year.
Yeah, 100%. And not to throw too many names, but another guy would be like Justin Fields, for example. I haven't done his card yet, but once he fully took over the reins, once he fully settled in as a quarterback last year, if you compare his seasonal output of being the quarterback 7 overall, quarterback 5, I think, in points per game, once you actually zone it into once he got into that hot stretch, found his groove as a young passer in the NFL, This guy was legitimately, I think, the quarterback 3 in terms of fantasy points per game. So that's going to be a guy that will be a standout on the series. I can pretty much guarantee.
Yeah, JMH Visual says pick up an orphan team before the season starts and follow your progress to a ship. I mean, we've already documented our own dynasty leagues, so I feel like that's kind of like already what we're doing. But we'll definitely, my own dynasty decisions kind of videos that we've done, we'll definitely keep you updated on our teams throughout the season and, once the season's done and that kind of thing. So Jared said, what do you think of his draft? So Sir King Jared, what do we got here?
Yeah. Let's check his team right there, Spicy.
So
if you
AJ Brown is the top guy there. I think you can click on his, if you go to his name on the top of the board there, you can click on his team.
Yeah. So we got Kirk, Russell, Bryce Young. I like that mixture of stability and upside there, getting Bryce late. JT, James Conner, Jamal Williams, Jerome Ford, and Jeff Wilson. I'm assuming that's going to mean you have a very strong wide receiver core having that hero RB setup. And I was completely right. AJ Brown, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, along with the Kirk Cousins stack. So
I think I probably would have went with another running back instead of Josh Palmer, just given how strong your receiver core was. That's probably what I would have done. But I like the double. If you're going to go 2 tight ends, to me, that's the way to do it. Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert, you have your tight end weeks locked down. Again, people forget. They're like, oh, you can only start 1 tight end a week. Yeah, but if Mark Andrews has 2 touchdowns and Dallas Goedert has a touchdown and 75 yards, Goddard's going to work into your flex. Like it's I think people forget that tight ends can go in the flex sometimes. So I do really like prioritizing, making sure the tight end position is going to be in a good spot, and having 2 guys like that will definitely do that for you. So Tony Pollard honestly may move above JT, Chubb, and Saquon for me. I think that's a little too rich for me because I do expect them to add somebody and at least use him in that kind of role.
That's the thing. If they go into the season and they don't bring in a veteran running back, this is a guy I'd be comfortable, honestly, taking upwards of the middle to high second round. Like I think there's a case to be made that he could be ranked above Saquon Barkley going into the season if they don't add anybody, given the strength of the offense.
This is a good one. I think, Andrew, this is a good idea. Players that we were high on that didn't work out. Like, I mean, Zach Wilson comes to mind. I wasn't necessarily high on him. I liked him at cost, like in underdog drafts or whatever. But in Dynasty, I definitely was high on him. So that's definitely a good video idea for sure.
Should we do this in the frame of in terms of guys in redraft takes that we've had or Dynasty takes that we had?
I mean, we could do it from both perspectives.
Yeah. All right. I'm down.
Would you trade Nick Chubb for Elijah Moore straight up?
I think you get more.
I'd probably want something a little bit on top of Elijah Moore. The market doesn't value them remotely close to each other. So even though they'd be closer in my rankings, I would rather have Nick Chubb, A, like straight up, and B, I would want probably Elijah Moore in a second for Nick Chubb.
Yep. You should do we already read that. Loin team better. I have a stupid amount of JT anyway, though. I was taking him when he was an early second rounder, and I'm taking him mid-second too. I don't know. I can't take him in the early second. Like, I think mid-second's the ceiling. I could take JT just because of the offensive concerns I have, and he doesn't catch passes. That's pretty much.
I'll take him in the early second, no problem.
I can't take him early. Like, I can't take him over Garrett Wilson. Is kind of where I'm at. And Amon-Ra.
I can take him over Garrett Wilson and Amon-Ra personally.
If you want to take him over Waddle, that's fine, but I can't take him over those 2.
Yeah, I mean, in a 3 wide receiver full PPR league, I would definitely take those wide receivers. But as an anchor running back, I think Jonathan Taylor is still worth a high pick.
The way I view it is their projections, in my opinion, are pretty similar given what I view of this Colts offense. Only I like the texture of the running backs in the round 3-4 area kind of more than I do the wide receivers.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Tobin's talking about his team. He really liked to start. We could go back to it, but we're probably going to close out this live stream. Yep. So we'll check in with that later. Pittman answer Matt Ryan and Colts older offensive linemen were washed. Yeah, Pittman Jr. I was very high on. That was one that definitely aged poorly.
Yeah, no, I was high on Pittman as well.
I was also high on Allen Robinson in the same area of the draft, who was just clearly washed up last year. So we're gonna hop off here again. Thank you guys for joining us. And also check out Underdog. Oh yeah, we'll close this one out here.
The offensive line's not nearly the one that it was in 2021 is kind of where I'm at with it. Quentin Nelson, I'm sorry, he went from arguably the best or second best guard in football to average at best. Like, I don't know what, maybe he's injured. Maybe he can get back. Like, maybe he can get back to the level of play, but I think that level of concern in itself, if we're not banking on this being an elite offensive line like it was considered in 2021, and he's not going to catch passes, and they're going to have a rookie quarterback, What are we thinking? Also, then no, what?
Not in run blocking, they weren't.
No, not
Maybe
in
in
run
pass
blocking. Pass blocking, sure. I'll concede that because I mean Carson Wentz.
Yeah, no, they had the
Nice
road
way.
graders to pave the way for Taylor. I'm higher on Taylor. I think that Richardson, even if he's bad, is going to open up some rushing lanes and that kind of thing. And I mean, to be fair, too, there's no Nyheim Hines there anymore, so there's not out of the range of outcomes that Jonathan Taylor doesn't post a career high in receptions this year. I don't think he's going to be a weapon as a receiver, but I do think he could probably have a decent amount. But either way, we'll close this video out. Again, thanks for checking this out. Check out our other videos. We're gonna have a Dynasty Decisions episode dropping tomorrow. Injury talk with Edwin Porras on Friday, and then again, feel free to fire away any suggestions you guys have for stuff you want to see. So appreciate you guys joining us. Peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.